Opening prayers, prayer book, page 1. All mothers, sentient beings, limitless as space, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be free from suffering. Swiftly, may they attain precious, unsurpassed, perfectly complete enlightenment. All mothers, sentient beings, limitless as space, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they be free from suffering. Swiftly may they attain precious, unsurpassed, perfectly complete enlightenment. All mothers, sentient beings, limitless as space, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be free from suffering, and swiftly may they attain precious, unsurpassed, perfectly complete enlightenment. For that purpose, until I attain Buddhahood, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. Until death, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. From today until this time tomorrow, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. I take refuge in the Buddhas until I attain the essence of awakening. Likewise, I take refuge in the Dharma and in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas, just as the Buddhas of the past gave rise to bodhicitta and progressed along the Bodhisattva's path. So shall I give rise to bodhicitta for the benefit of all beings and practice the stages of the Bodhisattva's path. Refuge in the Buddhas until I attain the essence of awakening. Likewise, I take refuge in the Dharma and in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. Just as the Buddhas of the past gave rise to bodhicitta and progressed along the Bodhisattva's path, so shall I give rise to bodhicitta for the benefit of all beings and practice the stages of the Bodhisattva's path. I take refuge in the Buddhas until I attain the essence of awakening. Likewise, I take refuge in the Dharma and in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. Just as the Buddhas of the past gave rise to bodhicitta and progressed along the Bodhisattva's path, so shall I give rise to bodhicitta for the benefit of all beings and practice the stages of the Bodhisattva's path. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. Awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. May all mothers, sentient beings, limitless as space, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Mothers, sentient beings, limitless as space, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mothers, sentient beings, limitless as space, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. An infinite array of worlds, each with 4 continents and the wealth of infinite oceans of realms. If I bring them all to mind and offer them without exception, please hold with compassion all the beings they contain. My body, enjoyments, and whatever I own, my aggregates, elements, and sense sources, my aspirations now and in times to come, as well as everything I grasp as mine. By offering them all, may I be blessed with the end of self-grasping, completely liberated from the bounds of real and unreal, transcending the names and attributes of arising, cessation, and abiding, coming and going, affirmation and denial. The supreme mandala is the natural state. By offering it, may I be blessed to attain the state of Buddhahood. Om Guru Dewa Dakini Ratna Mandala Praticha Soha. Namo to the Guru, the Utter purity of all appearance and existence, I offer all appearance and existence, risen as primordial ground. I supplicate you, may the three realms be completely liberated. Please grant blessings to empty samsara from its depths. For the five omniscient wisdoms, crown ornament, loving nature, precious protector of beings, heart of all Buddhas, inexpressible by words or thought, I supplicate you from the core of my mind. Bless me from within the state of Dharmata. Bless me to realize this mind primordially pure and unborn as the unfathomable Dharmakaya. Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the greater and lesser vehicles and the teachings common to both, according to the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings.
Chancho semje do zemen on the end of our pemban de baye, and the other Zurban de Dajin, Chancho Mato, Jubaran, some Shone Chancho some John Watan, Chancho Semje Shandon Chibrasho, Jawak and Duyan, Matan de Chuja Belan, Satan and the Yonder of Dona Dorjan, Chanke, Compagnon to show. Oh, then that's someone should be some days sure.
So good morning, everybody. Good morning in Tashidele.
Oh, then当然说开上第朝鲜天气解决打工，马上我都提前做的话，我都写清楚，我都写有领导，他们写我们挺多查题，他写完的，面对不要的也是。
And so last night we went through the preliminaries, the first section of the co-emergent unification. And as was mentioned in the category of the preliminaries, there are 4 sections. And so we went through the first 3 sections. And today we'll begin with the 4th, which is the preliminary of mandala, offering the mandala.
Oh, today that's in around so kasan digdeb jana dorjes be komdet. Oh, that's here watch out. Digdeb just so za ku shu. That's so za ya te. Ya shu te mende pu ya te. Oh, tin lu tene dang zo. Mende te kasan na ge ra tang ji ba. Rang lu tang ji ba da guo xiao zong la pu shu zam na. Oh, te lu qi ne mende pu ku shu. Tin lu te that's so za ya shu te mende qi. Oh, mende ko te ma shu ya qi.
So as was mentioned yesterday, the most effective practice for purifying the defilements and obscurations is the practice of Vajrasattva. And likewise, so once we have purified the obscurations, we also have to gather the accumulations. And in the same way, the most effective practice for gathering the accumulations is the practice of mandala. So when we offer a mandala, we offer the entire universe with Mount Meru at its center, together with our own body. And this practice of offering the mandala becomes the best means for gathering the accumulations.
Oh, then the mandate is Puyala, that would be mandate on Buwe mandate needs, or that would be mandate, and another mandate, Jinko, that's show him down the Yon Tigan, and Yamlan, show him the Tigala, mandate Puyate, Rube mandates, a mandate you won't actually, because she may not dormant, got on the Jane, GC Tochi.
Mina Torma Yangna.
A mandate Cosimina. Mandate Menon don't take on la. Don't my got on the Jane, GC Toachi, Choshu, this Marchi, or the Lugat on the Jane, or that's a chico should take her center. That's so young to J out today, so young to Tayo, we're so young to out. Or that's so young is a Mikwachine, or that's a Shago, Jivo should I go Yamnachi. Some some the part for no I don't know much as I say Shago for this.
So the Tsombunga,
Non some.
So with the
don't matter
So when we do the practice of mandala, there are two categories of mandala. There's the accomplishment mandala and the offering mandala. So the first category, the accomplishment mandala, is the mandala that's arranged as a support, like the representational mandala, which is placed on the altar, on the shrine. And if you have like a mandala set, then it's good to have that mandala be, the mandala, kind of the traditional mandala that's offered. But if one doesn't own a mandala set or an extra mandala set, then it is okay to have the representational mandala be, for instance, like the mandala of the 5 points. So this is something that can even be made, say like on a flat surface, like a mirror. Then there are 5 points or heaps that are made with like tormas kind of, and in the center is a little bit taller, and then the 4 heaps around. And so this representational mandala is not to be changed, and it's to be left there throughout the duration of the practice. And so then the second category is the offering mandala. So the accomplishment mandala is the representational mandala as a support to the practice. Oh, and he said, what it represents is the field of accumulation, this representational mandala or the accomplishment mandala. And it becomes the means, like the support that we gather the accumulations toward, what's referred to as the field of accumulation. And so then we have that, and then we also have the actual practice of the offering that is repeatedly offered, which is the offering mandala. Wait, ula kare?
That's mando no becha uda choje singe jiji debe rimboche che nima tang dawa nimeke nima tang ninda tang beme den la den tang jibe usu zawe lama sha tu yedam la so lo sangje gongcho no de chu chang ti gendu gongcho so tenam gongbe tenam la wazerke chobe zawa tang jibe lama nam dem yedam ta so nam la den chosu sangje nam la de chu tambe chu nam la chu ba de mi ba da gendu ni年长强说性别跟他会跟对那么的把的没有点是我他是几次了这边那么子了到他这边那么是那把多点强的我这边那么的我他几块的我去那边那就头那么的呢我这几周了他是这边那么什么他是做下旅游上这也对了上街的也是对了一当堂也是上街家的去将用的这这边了嘛，多见强用这研究，我成都那我这的，几年但是做研究，我再说成都要几个多。
So the accomplishment mandala, so in the text here it says, clean the mandala rings well, but actually the text just says clean the mandala well. And when Drupal Rinpoche was describing it, he said actually he was referring to the base of the mandala, like the mirror. So first we clean the mirror well, and this actually represents the cleansing or the purification of all our afflictive emotions and the various defilements. And so that is why that motion of cleaning the base or the mirror is very important. And then having cleaned it, then as the mandala is created or built, we visualize it as a celestial mansion made of all kinds of precious materials with 4 corners and 4 entrances. And in the center and in its four corners or precious thrones. So with this is represented, for instance, if we have the 5-point mandala as that representational mandala in the center, that heap or torma is bigger, and then there are the four surrounding, and those represent precious thrones, each supported by 4 lions and with a cushion of lotus, sun, and moon. Seated on the throne in the center is your root guru. So as has been kind of the pattern here, we visualize actually in the center is the root guru, but visualized in the form of Vajradhara. So his appearance is that of Vajradhara, his essence is that of the root lama, and he is surrounded and by all of the lineage gurus, or you can visualize that the lineage gurus are stacked above him, one on top of the other. And then in the east is the Yidam deity, so that then is to the Yidam de Shar Dunlarwa, that is in front of him. And then to the south is the Buddha, to the so the Buddha is to his right, and then in the west is the Dharma, so that's behind, and then in the north is the Sangha, so that is to the left of the Guru, and so then you visualize in this way the field of accumulation, the mandala, the representational mandala, as the field of accumulation.
Oh, that's a lot of
the Tama de Lama Tsawa Dang Juba Chiba Lama. So then it says, when dazzling lights emanate from them, dissolve the root and lineage gurus into the guru, Yidam deities into the Yidam deity. Buddhas of the 10 directions into the Buddha, countless forms of Dharma into the Dharma, and countless number of noble Sangha, such as hearers and solitary realizers, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas into the Sangha. And so this is sort of the invocation of these, the wisdom being aspects of these, which then dissolve into the visualized forms.
Oh, then Nipan Buya Mendete, then Buya Mendete, that's a Jurumbo Chile, probably Yanshin Jachi, that Mendete, also some of the subduing to go to Ratan go to that. Also looks one chance to the Mendia, Rodoshi, or chance against Ruchi, Tambo subduing to go. Or to lose out the time, or so J. Yuri. Or the man that a bit what you said, Mended some doing to Goshi. My man on the Ruma, you can bush. Or teaching until the Goli looks so gentle. One deacon that some doing the shadow. What teaching?
So then next is the offering mandala. So this is the mandala that we're offering again and again. And so there are different kind of methods according to sort of the more extensive practices of mandala. So in our tradition, first, the way that it's done is we do a 37-point mandala. And then this is placed in front. And then the main thing that we're accumulating as we offer are the prostrations. So we prostrate, and with each prostration, we add some content, like some grains, for instance, to the mandala, to the 37-point mandala that's in front. But then there's also the style of offering the 7-point mandala again and again. And so this tradition, the way that it is described here, is according to the 7-point offering.
Oh, the Najurumbo Chile, Trobe, Yanshin Jati, some J. Uha, Rat, on Charter, some Jago, Lumpa, Bo, some Jago. Zamane, non some Jago, the Balanjo, chance some Jago, Germany, Utan Shark, some Nima, Utan Nobji, Jago, and Dava, Utan Tatam, Usu Tatam, may have been your don't you put some soba, Mazama, on some Rambochi, Churu Gamba, dark, Lulon to give it Zawat, if I toba me bamboo, Lama, Goncho, some dark, Lutan, give it Zawat. Tamchi, Boo, Shears, or Dala, Topan Chot, Jevan Zip, or no Jimmy, but 진짜 라브做事情也当他做那么有种就给月早晚曾经不些用些说大了做换车的结果这头军你们军情里边叫把经济拉不做说光照中不打开龙啊也送给月早晚当结巴了不用是不如打开多换车的结巴这头你们军情里边叫把些拉说别给做吧才打的那我这有人以前的公司我真的我他没得亚普呢他让给龙啊也但我不他们去凌晨当结巴我不他们去让给你把打破送吧他马上呗我不他们去不他们马上让给流浪就他结巴怎么打光桥中的朋友上我在之前的没得怎么的刚过我听到我在马路上那个啥他们人过的多
So as we offer the mandala, this offering mandala, we do so, really including everything. So thinking in holding in your mind, mentally generating, all kind of material things worthy of offering, the 4 continents, the subcontinents, the sun and moon, all that is owned, all those things that are owned and all those things that are also not owned. And of course, all of one's own wealth and enjoyments and one's own body, all of this is offered to the 3 jewels as we do the mandala offering. And so then it says here, the ground is of precious gold and is vast and precious. Place a handful of offering materials in the center, signifying Mount Meru. Place a handful in the east, signifying the eastern noble body continent. Place a handful in the south, signifying the southern rose apple continent. Place a handful in the west, signifying the western wish-fulfilling cow continent. Place a handful in the north, signifying the northern unpleasant sound continent. Place a handful between the center and the east, signifying the sun. Place a handful between the center and the west, signifying the moon. Piled up in the center of the mandala are the many magnificent wealth and glory of gods and humans, appearing like the 3,000 world systems filled with many kinds of precious objects. Holding nothing back, offer these together with your body, wealth, and the virtues you have accumulated in the 3 times, and supplicate, the sublime Guru, I offer you everything, my body, wealth, and the root of virtue. Please accept them fully. Please make the most excellent realization dawn in me. Please grant your blessings so that I may have uninterrupted meditative experiences. Likewise, supplicate the assembly of the Yidam deities. I offer you everything, my body, wealth, and the root of virtue. Please accept them fully. Please make the most excellent realization dawn in me. Please grant your blessings so that I may have uninterrupted meditative experiences. Likewise, supplicate the 3 jewels. I offer you everything, my body, wealth, and the root of virtue. Please accept them fully. Please make the most excellent realization dawn in me. Please grant your blessings so that I have uninterrupted meditative experiences. Thus meditate on the preliminaries for a long time.
真的当然说的提起他提我着的着双的呢提起这面这些的这趟去能做的你对我着对面我着现在往下个的话现在讲着那在他留这吧这样做下个尝试个来忙不加个的话我真的留这吧做起这一家的农业这俺这吧做下去这样去俺在他一家庭农业忙不咋的去个的话这俺这吧这样去这面这些一这吧这样的这可是呢一个他这农就忙不在出过去的话这面这一这吧这样生那来说那么多真的牛毛这般多是就别讲那有点可是生那的这说那么多这也是我听的牛毛这般的是我这把当自己的路通图表我听的这面这些一个这吧这样这趟面这些我应该是这那边去主要的拉不穷呢人不起来说主要我们这说的我这面呢但说说看的用呢说说别的就要不用那这类要的面的那说说那么做的我真的就是他面呢这了别的这样来来说这啦不难这说的我的现在就面的这那是啥多来说没关系不难这说的我听的是说说这起 我真一直把这样，其实呢，他到底那面呢就经常就要，我当我都心里对开心不的就光过呀，就这样当当那种，我一直咁样啦，说多发解脱呀，这点呢我都推蒙我都写当推明我都写，我提起我特别开心不那差的我这种啊，这样呢，其他那要我的是，我真的那里嘛，我从我已经弄错很多。
So these are, kind of corresponding with the commonly practiced for uncommon preliminaries. So within the categories of the four uncommon or special preliminaries, being refuge, Vajrasattva, Mandala, and Guru Yoga, it is the practice of refuge, and particularly the prostrations that purify the obscurations of the body. And then mainly, so when we recite the 100-syllable mantra, accumulate these recitations, that specifically or mainly purifies the obscurations of speech. And then in practicing the mandala, this mainly purifies the obscurations of the mind. And the reason for this is because as we practice the mandala, we're mentally offering, many of all of our wealth and enjoyments, and this is a mental offering, and it also is directly counteracting, afflictions based on self-grasping, such as greed or miserliness. And in general, all of the kind of discursive, the discursive thoughts, and in particular, the root, the mind of self-grasping. So this practice of offering directly counteracts or subdues the mind of self-grasping. And so in that way, it in particular is purifying the mind. And when we offer the mandala, it's best if we can offer, the most precious substances, or have, for instance, the materials, the mandala materials, that they're really like the highest quality of precious metals or precious gems. But if we don't, and the higher the quality or the more kind of precious the substances, the greater the accumulation of merit. But if we don't have, those like the capacity to have really good quality precious things as our substances, then even just using, for instance, grains and various grains, to whatever extent we're able to offer, then we kind of do the level that we're capable of. But if we don't have that capacity, then anything really will suffice, even offering stones and earth as the substances of the mandala, using that. The main thing is to mentally generate the offering, the visualization, and then this becomes a purification of the mind. And then typically the fourth of the uncommon preliminaries is the practice of Guru Yoga. And this is really necessary because it is in connecting with the blessings of the Guru and the lineage that then the realization can arise in the mind stream. And so that becomes the way to then generate or connect with the stream of blessings, to inwardly give rise to experience as one moves into the main practice. And so typically we have the four uncommon preliminaries, the practice of the four uncommon preliminaries, which are the four thoughts that turn the mind, and the four common preliminaries. Did I say uncommon? The four common preliminaries, which are the four thoughts that turn the mind, and the four uncommon preliminaries, which are these four Mundro practices. So here we have a somewhat different order, but we have now gone through the uncommon preliminaries, and we get to the main section of the text now.
Oh, then当做可能我都记了，我出那把你是哪种你吧？我记了你的是我出那把你有的是可能哪种？我是听着我这里，我真的等我出你的可的什么生意用嘛我做啊，哪套我做吧，是你有的是。
And so then we have in the main section, so as was mentioned yesterday, the main section is comprised mainly of the two pointing outs, the two types of pointing out. And so these two are pointing out the innate nature of mind and pointing out upon appearances.
전에 다시 당보의 심리님만 오도야들라 당보를 니요 신내 당통이 되네 신내 당통선이 그래서 어제 신내들라 된chen 당대미 니요서와 된chen 당대미 니요서리 나지지.
And so in this first section of pointing out, which is pointing out the nature of mind, we have the two categories of calm abiding or shamatha and insight or vipassana. And so these also are, there are further kind of the two categories of shamatha with attributes and shamatha without attributes.
전에 다 될라고 당보의 르니티 야고 치고를 르니 투고 라이바르체네스 와다 르니 투고 야고 치고를 제가 대로 배송요를 가르송선 르지네타 어디로만 나로 바로 나로 배경 가르잖아 르지네타 다베팅 셈지네타 권베니 르지네타ፈል된 다베팅지야 편토와서
타웨
땡 셈지네타 권베니 셈지네타 권베니 르니 심니니 요레스 르다니다 셈키니네 르트라 되네 곰소 제트비아라 편토디 소레스 르케 도탄스 야보지요나 어떨때네
And so first it says, assume properly the body postures or the physical key points. So here, the first thing that we do is sit in the proper posture, assume the proper posture. And this is very important. So as Naropa has said, the physical posture of the body becomes kind of the vehicle or the means for the mind to rest within or find its proper resting within the view. And so because the body and the mind are connected, and so when there is a connection with the physical posture that enables the mind to properly rest or properly settle. And then this facilitates or makes it possible or facilitates the meditation or creates the ability to meditate.
다 르니데 제탄 르야 장보 지나 자 장보 지는 농지도 장보 차로 되는데这三年吧的，应该是我这种有的话，这样的我在轮里开起步去，我在那轮里就当那种南巴那子出东西，在小下节有了轮里那么出东西，我在轮小下节多。
And so first it says, that the posture itself, what happens is that it allows for the channels to sort of straighten, to become a straight path. And when the channels are straight, then the winds can also move freely or unobstructedly. And when the winds are able to move unobstructedly, then the mind can rest, the mind can abide. And so in this way, there is this direct benefit that the posture itself has on the meditation. And in general, the way that the proper posture is taught is in terms of the 7-point posture of Vairochana.
等那大陆内的开始生长波刚波的这集中之间呢，那托西克隆写的有了，托西克隆写的，我们最好偏给的是，这我们做的是，这对牛我们把长度的话先做的是，我真的长度这块去用的嘛的是，我这期长度，牛毛长度的话先做的是，这长度或者去用嘛的是，我这老板娘不是对我说，你们家瞧见的去呢，真的。 다 출렁도 맞추그레스 출렁 와전에 출렁도 맞추도 되는 요모트 해당한테 봐서 그래서 어떨 때는 이 같이 말해서
유몽시랑.
되게 개와야 정보 지나 개선 다다 방설은 뭐 개선 다다 자야 정보 지나 지와다 봉바 파티 장래한다 지나 봉바 고쇼다 장설라고야니들 봉바 파 장래한다 지나티 산롱소 맞춰야 팽그레스 어떤 요모 데모 시쳐 그래스 전에 짐바 디시 점고나 메롱도 맞추고 그래스
Kare melon.
마리마 롱롱 봉타
Longilong.
롱롱 맞추고 그래스 어떤 요모는 아자 시쳐 그래스 셰바도 디시와 용 그래스 셰바 제트로야 그래스 어때다 어때 칼라송이
Jimba yitsu. Ye or jimba ye.
알 짐바 이제 메롱지도 용타 메롱 맞추고 그래스 요모는 도차 시쳐 그래스
Melon rebe.
메롱
And they tene gare nyomon gare.
도차 시게
Shera ducha.
도차 시게 메이나세 파다야제라 메이나세
So sheba sawa droa de rebe.
마마레마 디제레
Okay, that's all.
메이파 나세 다야제라 메이나세 바 메이나세 도 메이바 메이나세 도 소시에스타 어떻게 제티야 칸 잘레한데 치나 롱롱 맞추그레스 테뇨몽 아자티게 그레스 어떻게 누테는 해바지 세트 그레스 어떻게 누 어다테 샘니다 롱니 자니 참지 샘니 자니 롱니 참마데 메일요 메이티 한테 누파 데데두디 스페셜다 데 메이 파르 소나 이스 곰자트야 디 메이냠 샘죠 루사리 어떤 총도레스 어떤 뉴스 개침보레스 어떤 something 총아지나다 넘버나 초드은지나 용태 어떻게 냠내 지나
Something.
something 총아지나다 되게 식당아는 자유라다 어떤 남나니도 초드은세가 잠깐 드나고 어떻게 그다 지도지 냠내 루니 지네 더 요모통아다 지기바 현도 그래서 롱샘소 롱드 샘도 랑지조 맞춰야지네 남포니 그래서 방가네 공자서 디 랑지 공스 또파 랑지 세 차트별 팽게레스 인디 루니트 개침보레 종리 어때서 루파니 소니디나 어또 관담에다 초선 샘요 신토고 말이스
So each of the 7 points that are the points that are assumed in the 7-point posture of Vairochana also have specific functions that assist the meditation. So the first point being the legs folded in the lotus posture or the Vajra position. And this has the benefit of causing the descending winds to enter the central channel. And it in particular pacifies the afflictive emotion of jealousy. And then the 2 points of the hands resting in the lap beneath the navel in the gesture of meditative equipoise, or sorry, this one point, it has the benefit of bringing the winds that are connected with water into the element of water into the central channel. And this also pacifies the afflictive emotion of anger. And then the point of the back being straight, or the spine being straight, and the arms sort of bent and has the effect of the winds. It's salung, salung.
Salung
salung. Okay. The winds connected with the element of earth are brought into the central channel, and this has the effect also of pacifying the afflictive emotion of mental darkness or ignorance. And then the 2 points of the chin being slightly tilted forward, or I guess, sorry, just the one point of the chin being slightly tilted forward, has the benefit of bringing the winds connected with the element of fire into the central channel. And this also pacifies, in particular, the affliction of desire. And then the point of the eyes being cast down, the gaze being cast down off the tip of the nose, has the benefit of or has the benefit of the bringing the wind connected with the wind element into the central channel. And this also pacifies the affliction of arrogance or pride, and the mind is brightened in particular by this point of the gaze. And so in this way, actually also the gaze is of particular importance because there's a connection with all three. The mind, the channels, and the winds are all affected by the gaze of the eyes. And so, for instance, if the gaze is not fixed or settled, and the eyes are darting around to different things, then this disrupts sort of the subtle body, the winds, the channels, and the mind can't abide, it can't focus, it can't collect. And so then this makes it impossible to really meditate, because there's the mind becomes distracted by the instability of the gaze. And so when there are all these 5 points here mentioned, and so generally we have like the 7 points, the 7-point posture of Vairochana, and all these 7 points are mentioned here, but they're kind of condensed into 5. And so these 5 become the means to develop the 5 rivers of samadhi. And also they naturally pacify or calm the energies of the 5 poisons. And it also has the benefit of kind of naturally bringing these various winds, kind of collecting them and causing them to gather into the central channel, and realization or understanding naturally arises. So again, it's important to tame the body by assuming the posture, the 7-point posture. Otherwise, if the body is moving around and not in any particular posture, then it just it also causes the thoughts to be very active and all sorts of discursive kind of distraction. Also follows the unsettled kind of energy of the body.
근데 당하랑 소안 카시테 다 지tom 되게 도제 지tom 자토 말아 도제 지tom 디스자를 자야 갈래 가보여와 어때 거시자 마톰 제탄 지tom 지나 되게스 어때 거시 당 카시네 나 강반 나시도 나피도 안 카시야 류 정보지도 게세트 나시도 남도 어때 나나 한테 샘 야고 내 토고 말와 근데 거시 다 류네 남나 추도 치 마도 나데 소소 country there not the also country there not the then it's a same money but so the nyame ya wo same cheap yo or then same money but chin nyame cha go yo
And so for some, it is difficult to sit with the legs crossed, the legs folded in the Vajra position, or even just sitting cross-legged is very difficult for some. If it is normal that if you're not used to it, that it would be difficult at first. So, to stretch your capacity a bit and to really make an effort to sit is good. But if it really is unworkable, if it really is very painful, and the same for some people too, it's to sit with the straight back. There might be very difficult because there's severe back pain or issues with the spine, and so of course if you're pushing to an extent where it really is just creating more pain, ongoing pain and discomfort for the body, then if there's a lot of pain there, then the mind won't be able to rest. You won't be able to concentrate. And so if you're not able to sit in the posture in certain ways, with the crossed legs or the spine, then you can sit in whatever posture works for you. But the main thing is to sustain, to not become distracted mentally, to sustain, undistracted awareness, and to practice accordingly. So then, as it says, then having assumed the key physical points, think I vow to achieve Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. And so the second step is to generate the mind of awakening, or bodhicitta. And there are essentially three types of bodhicitta. So there is the shepherd-like bodhicitta. And so this is considered to be the most superior. This is likened to the example of a shepherd whose flock of sheep or what have you are ushered out before him, and he sort of stays behind, looking at all the sentient beings. And so the objective there is, may all sentient beings be led to enlightenment first, and that is a kind of putting one's own awakening last, as that the priority is on the awakening of sentient beings. And then once all sentient beings have awakened, then oneself also attains Buddhahood. Then the second type of bodhicitta is the captain-like bodhicitta. And this is likened to the example of a captain of a ship. So the captain, together with all of the passengers on the ship, reach their destination together. So this is the idea that oneself, together with all sentient beings, may we all awaken together. And Lord Jigten Sumgön said that this is the type of bodhicitta that he practiced, or this he felt to be the best type or style for him. And then the third type of bodhicitta is the king-like bodhicitta. So like a king who has all of his subjects. So first, once one is enthroned as a king, they have the ability and the power to bring benefit to their kingdom. So one seeks one's own awakening first. And the idea is that once one attains Buddhahood, then one will be able to bring all sentient beings to that state. So these are all equally valid types of bodhicitta. They're just three different flavors, or three different kind of styles. And then so as it says, I vow here, that thought is, may I achieve Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings, or may we all achieve the state of Buddhahood together.
the non arangi marobles gomne, Sivor gomnes, Jivor lama goms, that is Jivor rang Savi lamate, number Durjan Chano gomna rishojets gomne. This is such not to tell the symbol of us to jail that I gone to the Yabo up. What to do some of down at the Mohuchin, the Zora Yabo that. What in it, that one Jago is.
And so then it says, visualize your body in the form of the Yidam deity and meditate on the Guru above your crown with heartfelt devotion. So then you generate your form as the enlightened form of whatever your particular Yidam deity, so clearly visualizing this. And also then you visualize above your crown your root Guru as before, whose aspect is Vajra, who in his appearance appears as Vajradhara, and his essence is that of your root Guru. And then with devotion, you supplicate in order to receive the blessings and enter into the meditative absorption.
Oh, then that's also Yidam Mina, that depends on what generation of Guamsong, Yidam Susu mixing Yidam in Samina, or generation of
And so if one doesn't have a particular Yidam deity, Lord Jigten Sumgen advises that one meditate as on oneself as Chenrezig or Avalokiteshvara.
Oh, then that's a zone that deba ta mawon ta der ke topa jin yang ila mejis. Oh, dan debe nam to ndong te je ma chu wa ji. Mawon ba sam no ma thang sen ta ta ta. Ta de sam no den da ma thang ne ten. Ta zo gom ja sem te bo chi lo bo chi. Then zo ta gom ja chi ko res.
And so then, as it says, without harboring any thought of past, present, or future, look at and set your mind on any focal object in front of you, such as a pebble or a tiny stick, etc., and keep your mind undistracted from the object for even a moment. And so then one settles using whatever object it is that is chosen as the focal point, and practices not following after concepts or thoughts having to do with the past, not getting caught up in concepts concerning the present, and not following after or chasing thoughts of planning or concerned, those that are concerned with the future. And then that's all. And then just relaxing both mentally and physically, one abides single-pointedly.
Oh, then dang around so dan rima shine gomya ramba shin yore ten di around so this is gomche gomchi go stere karsana jema so so kan gom na de ta ne ba ramba shin this is so gomja he ja ten ru chi goes.
And so there are these progressive stages of developing the calm abiding of, developing the different stages or the different levels of progression in shamatha or calm abiding. And so we'll go through each of those and spend a little bit of time, familiarizing ourselves with each method. And then in the future, you don't have to necessarily do it like that in progressive stages, but then you have a basis to sort of know to choose whatever way that you want to meditate going forward. But right now, for the purpose of sort of familiarizing, we'll go through each type of meditation and practice a little bit. And so then you have a number of methods available to you. So in the future, you choose whichever of these methods feels most effective. So you can choose that whatever of these methods, but first, so you don't have to go through the different stages like this in your own meditation. But this is just as a means of kind of equipping you with different tools or different methods.
Oh, then that's really much on the wrong can do to Shinwon last was kingdom, Dividend, Shinwon, Dividend last over. Sema Shela, that on same days, what that wrong do young kingdom, and young DJ, and Say la some of them same mine, but in Teleta, Hepatito. The Gom Gores, Karsana Aranzo, Tambo Segom, Nazation, W. Res. Karisana Aranzo, Julian, Gidi, Russian, in the Odo, one Gidi, Teledan, they was out of the same shot to Yala. One pay out to do your race, what they do, or the chain of the La Dina, or the race in that Garbo, he was in the mail, no grace. Garbo man and race. What the man can do in other thing, like Lutra Shana, or that's it. Some of them, Casimina, that's a ruin of the use them, what other thing also, or consider the Ionazim Micensina, or that is from the in also.
So the first method is to use like an actual object, an ordinary object, like a little piece of stick, like a twig or a pebble. And what you put this pebble or this piece of stick in front of you, and you just rest your gaze there together with your mind, and abide without becoming distracted or pulling your mind back every time it does become distracted. And the reason for using an object like this, an ordinary object such as a pebble or a stick, is that it's actually the easiest to begin with, because we're already very familiar with objects like this, and the mind can kind of naturally just settle on an object such as a pebble or a stick. And so then it just becomes a kind of neutral object to place our gaze and awareness upon. And it is said that it's best not to choose like a pebble that's too bright or too white, because this can also kind of have maybe a harmful effect on the eyes. So, something that's maybe sort of a neutral tone, that's easy to rest your gaze upon. And if you don't have an object like that, you can just sort of imagine that it's there, or choose some substitute, like, some kind of point in front of you. And so we'll take a little bit of time now to meditate in this way, using an ordinary object like this.
저는 다다지 신에테 다지단테 신에테 답이 신에테 마다 신이 샤야로서 마다 바데다 티 다다도 신동 삼노다야지 답이 신에테 다 상제군동 제샤 랑 상제구제 샤네这个 다지 미파파 상제구 투카노 샘송 我知道 Samsung 的买把钱呢，如果要去，我到现在在在六七天呢，在我做去青蛙的，木把子修青不用呢，上节下民商的，怎么当下去？但初把的古把的修青不用呢，上节这样的修车啥怎么当呢？上节估计习惯有吧呢？咱们呢，我在六七呢，上节我在去过时候，在上节的，这里说说三句了，上节花下下头要的。 표현 토거래라 디파트바스 파창 투야 팽거래 어떻게 되나서 이 상제 끝에라 섬나다네 드네 신에 야제치
So when it comes to the shamatha that uses an object as the focal point, there's the kind of pure shamatha and impure. The impure objects and the pure objects for shamatha. So the impure objects would be like this method of using a pebble or a piece of stick, and then a pure object would be, for instance, like an image or a statue of, say, the Buddha. And so in the same way, you put a statue or an image of the Buddha in front of you, and you rest your gaze together with your attention on that form. And generally, the point where the eyes can rest is maybe at the heart level of the Buddha. And so then you just meditate in that way, in the same way, sort of sustaining or cultivating non-distraction. And then if you become sort of heavy, or if there's like sloth or torpor that enters, then you can focus instead, change your gaze to the point between the Buddha's eyebrows. And if there is kind of the opposite, a lot of proliferation and agitation, then it is good to focus maybe for that point of focus to be like the lotus seat or the feet, sort of going to a heavier sort of point of focus. And then this helps to calm the mind. So also the benefit of using a pure image is that this also places a positive or pure imprint in the mind stream, and it helps to purify the defilements and obscurations, putting the seed for awakening in our mind stream just by virtue of gazing at this sacred image.
전에 당하랑소 어디 있어? 상제 군정 어디다 요나 요리 미나 소도 파스 안두 남칸다 어디 상제 고제 요삼 어텔라 섬다네 되네 데르곤데 샤이니스.
And so then we can take some minutes to meditate in this way too. So if you have like a sacred image, like a statue or an image, you can put that in front of you. And if you don't have one, you can gaze into space and sort of imagine that the Buddha's form is there. And so we'll meditate together in for a few minutes like this. Dravana Rinpoche is asking, do we take a break during this morning session, or is there no break?
We will take a question and answer tomorrow.
No, not question and answer. He's wondering if we a break.
Yeah, right now we have a 20 minutes break.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
20 minutes break.
Yeah, Carmen Nishu.
Yeah. 저는 장가랑 저 고고음 지야 제가 저 대자 선바만 같이 거죠.
And so in general, so we continue to meditate in this way, and the main thing is to not fall into distraction, to stay non-distraction.
선바만 같이네 곰 상제체 사람도 곰 상제세나 다바 곰 크발라 테 심바 파치마 용과 남토만 보죠 송아 곰 유령보 치디트 남토만 보죠 송나 제 진백쇼 말레스 곰 지세 상제치 상제세나 제 네도 예스 안디스 냠내치네 안디스 샘네스타 디스 메송드자 와트네 중세행에 소장 아시 조금 와트네 저 저거 투총 장마 투총 장마마 내가 이스 어제 투총 장마 전주 치고레스 전주 정도
So the main thing is to meditate kind of with periods of disengagement from the object of focus. And so as it says here, nicely engaging from the meditation. And so meaning that, because the main thing is we want to preserve the quality of the meditation with the mind not becoming distracted, not falling into just kind of a distracted state of meditation. And this sort of disengagement, these periods of brief disengagement help to ensure that the meditation doesn't fall under the influence of obstacles. Because, for instance, if you meditate for a long time, but there are a lot of thoughts, you're caught up in a lot of discursiveness, then that isn't okay. That's not really been very beneficial. So to preserve the quality of the meditation, then we want to have periods of disengagement, which means sometimes this is described as having smaller sort of sessions of concentration, but very frequent in number. So short in duration, but frequent in frequency.
어떻게 생각하고 손한테 유령보 투니 니마제 투 좀사 투니사 투제케 니마제 치톰는 거래. 당보제 투
Oh yeah.
당보제 투마시 어제 진 투총 참마 투시르 곰사 투시곰나 리스라 돈디나 어떻게 투시치나디 니마제 치나 유령보 요르 마스 치나 거래. 가전 당보도 어때네 투와 삼치라 닌지시 투에 많이 봐 예라면지 쳔바도레 세와티 투크 허르캅서 제안 바저가 저가제 mamboze 차당 mamboze 제손 저 곰자가 티가 야보 다카레 아마토 곰자 갈레 카레스 카토베레스 엔디 메디바치네 투 하르크서 나 많이 바치 와테네 세주치 고레 정도 쳔바도레 차스
And so Milarepa also says that it's beneficial to have shorter sessions, but to do them again and again. So meditate for shorter periods of time, but again and again, frequently. So he says actually beginning when you start to have many sessions, so that then this ensures that when you are in session, your mind is really abiding well, that you're really focused. focused in your concentration. And then gradually, as your concentration develops, you can have fewer and fewer sessions. So for instance, Milarepa says that, eventually then maybe 3, starting out with 4, then maybe 3, then maybe 2, then maybe even just 1 session. Once one's meditation is very developed, it just becomes like one ongoing session. However, in the beginning, it's better to have shorter sessions, but without a lot of interruption, meaning frequently. So here in the text, it advises to have 4 sessions. Of course, dividing the day into 4 sessions, it's still, chunks of meditation that are a pretty long time. So you can do it, actually make them shorter and more frequent to begin with. And then, so it says, nicely disengaging from the meditation, remove your focus from the focal point, the focal object, rest briefly, and meditate again as before. Thus, meditate for short but frequent periods in the 4 sessions. So the advice here is to have the 4 sessions. Even between the sessions, do not be distracted by dualistic confusions and maintain constant non-conceptual mindfulness. Focus the gaze along the tip of the nose and be alert during all activities such as moving and sitting, etc. So it's important to try to sustain undistracted awareness in the post-meditation as well, to not get caught up in a lot of thoughts based on attachment and aversion, because that can also then harm the meditation when you go back to the session, when you start meditating again. So the more that you can sustain that undistracted mindfulness in your post-meditation or between sessions, this also aids the meditation itself.
로고를 세면서 요총 들으시는 데 세면 로그레스 어서 세마인 바신데 콤바제도 칼레 콤바자 로고레스 당아랑소 카히앙 곰자는 콤바자데 곰자로야지 여러 아카스나 콤바제도 간두지 강바티 파샤야 서서 지고를 좀 당신바 좀 마탕 와치네 어드네 어든르제 안로야 그냥 곰자 상제 여러와 어드르치네 양대 저거 생각도 다 전바 이게 심바시 전개에 대한 거죠. 대단해.
So then as it says, to keep the gaze along the tip of the nose, what that means is, to keep one's gaze cast downward in between sessions, especially like, for instance, when walking, just like keeping your gaze and your focus on what's right in front of you, meaning that, when you're walking, you don't sort of look around and kind of concern yourself with what you see over here and what you see over there, because that just stirs up thoughts. It just stirs up concepts and discursiveness. And so also the advice is to be alert during all activities and to move slowly in activities, because when we slow down, it becomes easier to also maintain that mindful awareness. If we speed up, then the mind quickly becomes distracted. And so there are also methods of walking meditation. In some traditions, there's the practice of just as you walk, really being aware of the action of walking, or what is actually happening in that movement, in that activity of walking itself, without thinking about other things, without becoming distracted, by other topics. And so this is a way to also sustain mindful awareness in post-meditation.
드네 단들이 봐도 데로베 다탕탕네 심지 토마이 리방 안트메네 파르스큐 다탕 심지 탕제 인다메다 요리스 드네 지사 다메다치 저거테 카세나 다 샘소 나네 마토스 다 주고레 스튜 센스 냠나치 고레스 그래서 네타 냠나치 고레 정도
And so then it says, Tilopa has said, through different ways of looking and guarding the mind, be disciplined until awareness abides in its natural state. So there are a number of different methods for gazing or sort of directing the gaze, which also helps to focus the awareness. And so the advice here essentially is to skillfully practice with employing all of these methods, so that one's practice becomes an unbroken continuity. So to abide with disciplined until awareness abides in its natural state.
then 당아주 양 들으제 그러면 우리가 저 예담 댄첸제 요로 신의 댄첸 때 다소소 ran 예담 카레나 뜻이 예담 차람 남제다네 카레나 뜻이 나라라기 말로 삼로다 어때 뒤나라 예담 티제렘 고네 어때 들으 신의 댄첸 공판제 요로 어때 뉴테지 공 톰나 카르잖아 제렘도 조렘니키 봐 냠트 공 투야 다르치냐 pensione 예담 제레나 pensione 조렘 티네트라셈 네트비아라 pensione 텐디 ngato tenduchine soso 예담 그래 나트제 담네 어ත네 디스코미아인스
And so there's also the method. So the next method for this shamatha with characteristics or with attributes is to use a visualized image. So in this case, we can use the image of our Yidam deity. So visualizing whatever Yidam deity appearing very clearly, very vivid, and in such a way that there is this understanding that the Yidam appears clearly, but is empty of any inherent existence or substantial nature. And then just resting on the image of the Yidam deity, this becomes like an object for cultivating calm abiding. So it is using a focal point, the focal point of a visualized image. And this also assists in later being able to also enhance the practice of the generation stage. And not only that, but to enhance the ability to unify the generation stage and the completion stage. So that eventually when one practices the generation stage as like the unification of the generation stage and completion stage as an indivisibility. So we can spend some time now together meditating, clearly visualizing your Yidam deity.
tene tanga so shine ta den chen chi ta den mi se je no wa den mi je tang di na zhen ba dang tu ba se zong xian do tene den mi te te di jie sa ten yo le ka yi na den mi te la long qian tang long mi se ni xia he le wa long qian se na zai da long tang zhe bi nyam na chi ya long mi se na te long mi ba te lu nyam na chi ya wa te lu da zai te lu xia shu wa
So then there is the calm abiding without focus. Or there's still the two categories of, the with attributes, without attributes. And then without attributes, you have the categories of with breath or using the breath and without the breath. And so using the breath means using the breath as an object of focus, and without the breath means without, any object of focus other than awareness itself. And there is employed the practice of focusing and loosening.
Tene tanteri tambote ta longchen te la tomate karesana long zi tang dis mandas nu yore ta tomate karesana long den pa samsung ne tene long chen ro wa de won na wo pa ro ya chuan ro ya te won zam tem chen ba mai wa chi ne tene sam zi do ya te la te ten ru yore sam pin ba mai wa chi tene ta se Androwa de Wonwa Neba Zom China Kupa J Long Kupa J Circuit. What a Kupa J Tambo Kupa Zom Sadun Samjire Sons Lamdo Tendrison Coretina no Zom Sad Le Tambo by Nasala Dunsa. What is Sam Cassi on the Songzone? Ina that's a decent.
Oh, the Danka Gianni.
Oh, Chankano Kupa Jela Drova the Wonwa Neba Zom the Kupa J. Or Tendo Zom Sam. Yana Dunsa, or that Cassi Samsung to Yanti, the Samji take on Jagores, or the Zong.
So Droa Chick Ongwa Neba Chick Ongwa or the Droa Chick Neba Ni no. Okay.
Droa to Onwa Neba Som like Kupa Jakes.
Oh, okay, that's
Yam to Kupa Jakes.
Okay.
Or the or then the Kupa Zomsa. Tene Kupa Dunsa, Tene Sam Jire Songores, Anti Lucian Madisa, Gangan Cheese, Sam this name at all, but Rudana, this Mesoja, Anti Soyan Chapongores on the or tending around so Tendukin, Tazi, non Romola, Dan, this Gomjanis.
Gongta Dunya Pocomason, Dunya Nagan.
Kupa Jakes at Dunsa to so you ring to.
Oh, that's all.
Tutoring to test in and release. Kasi what that is mass in and get to so zoms at Dunsa to Tung
and so with the using the breath, there are different methods. So often you can either kind of use a method of counting, or just sort of staying with the process of breathing in whatever way is most obvious. Like, for instance, noticing the breath as it leaves, or as you exhale and inhale, how it feels at the nostrils. But whatever way that you focus upon the breath, the main point is that it is a sustaining non-distraction, so that you're staying with the breath and not becoming distracted to other things. So then there's this other method of counting, and this can be practiced in different ways. One way is to count the in-breath, the abiding, and the out breath, or the in breath, the pause, and the out breath as one. And so then, so these three are counted as one, or it can be broken up. But the main thing is to stay with the breath as you inhale, as there's the pause, and as you exhale. And this method of counting can be very effective for a beginner. And it doesn't have to so you can start over the counting at different intervals. So even like after doing 3, going back to 1, or after doing 7, going back to 1. So there are different ways to practice like this. And if it becomes difficult, if you get tired, then you rest for a moment and then you engage again. You go back to the counting or whatever method. So now we'll spend some time meditating together in this way, using the breath as our object of focus.
ta jitang nga rang so te gom jabang du dene ancien dis nam to mambo de do shon dis rikwa de jam che cha de jong le is rikwa jam che na an ze de nam to mam to ya de yong kyo le an sam sam ze an hu chan ni de ti ya jong kyo wa ten du an to chen hu nyom bas ko sho chen hu nyom bas si ne ta so ze zam no ta ne ka se na ze an nam to mam to dan zi to le an chi an sam sam ze se de ma ni de zu qing hu dan zi spa ko dem ne这个怎么样子？我听对，真的，我听的当中的其他片嘛的美术的是家，我听对，就结果说的是。
And so sometimes it can be the case that when we're focusing too much, that this focus can actually have the adverse effect of kind of creating more agitation or more thought, more discursive thought. And so it can be beneficial in that case to employ, like to loosen or to relax. And then on the other hand, if we're too relaxed, then this can cause like sleepiness, sloth, and torpor. And so we want to find a balance, a good balance between focusing, or sometimes it's translated as tightening, but it's more like focused, sort of intensity of focus, and relaxation or loosening. And so if there's a lot of mental activity and a lot of excitement or energy, then try to relax and bring relaxation into the meditation. If you're feeling sleepy, heavy, kind of dull, then you might want to strengthen the focus, the intensity of the focus, bring the focusing energy or tightening into the meditation. If neither of these methods work, then you can rest for a little bit. You can just take a break and come back to it.
等呢，可惜当然你的我们其他家牛没呢，等呢，他我们接不对的，南跑忙的说的，他南跑忙的做完之后，他客人现在他，因为我们家土三把的，你妈人南跑车也是没，他南跑忙的做是都咱们的，那些就去那么都咱。等呢客人呢，咱他听着用这个的，在这用的客人现在在，天天就在买的，你妈就去那，我们家三亩大牛了嘛，是吧？大马牛对天呢。可是南跑过这我就可就送上过所有嘛的，我这六天他在南跑这你这个历史中过是错误的，我这你们俩做起哄的这六天，他说是下面那些人我第一次你的给起来他，我这六这中大就嘛的是，我这他下面那什么的，他下这个上他买下我去，我这呢那他南跑自己然后嘛的是我这下面说了现在的。别重新的，这样呢，就用头期间呢，这那个说结果的是。
And so, especially when one is new to the practice, when you haven't done a lot of meditation prior, it can feel that once you start to meditate, that there's like an increase of concepts, that actually the thoughts and concepts become stronger and that there's more of them. But actually, this isn't really the case. It's just that we haven't noticed how many concepts are in the mind before because we haven't been looking directly at the mind. But when we meditate and we turn the mind inward and then we sort of see, sometimes it becomes very, very visible, like one after the other. And it's just because we haven't looked so closely before. So we don't need to think, oh, I'm not doing it right, or there's some fault in my meditation. But actually, this is a sign of developing some ability for the mind to abide in meditation. It's a sign of progress in meditation. So it's not actually a fault. So sometimes it can be perceived as a thought, and there might even be the feeling like, oh, this isn't working, I'm just going to stop. So it's important not to have that kind of reaction, but to actually see it as a sign of practice, and to just to continue and to not follow after the thoughts as they arise, but, employ that method of loosening, relaxing into the meditation, and just sustaining the continuity of awareness without getting caught up in the concepts, and just keep going. Yangchar kong tate du sung je sanje ki show lam tena du junche mebe
Chemba yingmi ma xie na, chemba yingmi te ma xie na. Lunga adapta kana mi lu na ze lu cha che yang dong nga ka dong dong yang dong ten zu xian mi yin ra man tian di dan pian ya qian bo tuo zu ma le su wo de wo te chemba ma yin wa qi guo le song guo na ro de nyam na qi me sen yu de kang tu tuo zi su su chemba zu ju guo xue de da ze tang bo le la wo yo ma le le wo 别讲的像是不穷穷这样狼呢，那旁唐伯牙狼就可能恐怕这些嘛人着个吧，恐怕这些你讲的人着个，这怕发送的不对，阿呀，谁的你们开些送那恐怕马是家头呀的，这阿呀送的这恐怕家的可能是成功着个，这那银行出国唐伯家对的是，那么他让我在花钱的是花这气这个的就开始呢，那么让我咱们这的是刚刚用这个我才你呢，我才那一这个忙有人这个我们家头呀。 我这是怎么去呢？真的别从去过学的是。
So mainly one has to see for themselves what is most effective, what works best. So you can reflect in your own meditation, what is going to be most useful in terms of tightening the focus or loosening. And so, depending on your own experience and practice, your own meditation, you'll know what is the best method to employ. What is the most useful, what is actually helping the meditation, knowing that the goal is really just to sustain undistracted mindful awareness, to become less and less distracted, to have stronger and stronger mindfulness. As is said, if there's no mindfulness, there's no meditation. And so Lord Jigten Sungpan says that mindful awareness is the root of all of the Buddha Dharma, all of the Buddha's teachings. And so we have to continuously practice in such a way that supports building mindful awareness. Lord Jigten Sungpan has also said, all of the Buddhas of the three times, like the way of all of the Buddhas of the three times, is just the unbroken continuity of mindful awareness at all times. And if one doesn't understand how to sustain, or if one doesn't understand undistracted mindfulness, if one doesn't understand how to abide in this way, then no matter what one does in terms of the virtues of body and speech, it doesn't come to much. So if we are just doing practices with our body and speech, like doing various virtuous practices with the body or reciting mantra and so forth, but we're distracted, then the practice doesn't really have any real power or any real great benefit. So the main thing is undistracted mindfulness, building the strength of mindfulness. So we practice, in such a way to whatever extent we are able, to the best of our ability. And of course, at first it is not easy. It feels very challenging. It's like a child, who's just learning to walk. A child kind of hoists himself up and then takes a few steps and then topples over, and then he gets back up and he takes a few steps again and he topples over. And so it's like this practice of pulling the mind back and again and building the strength of mindfulness, the momentum and continuity of mindfulness. And so it takes a lot of repeated meditation, a lot of repeated effort, and just remembering, not to get entangled, not to get caught up, in the stream of proliferating thought forms, but to return again and again to mindful awareness. And then eventually our ability to remain, abiding with awareness without becoming distracted, it lengthens. We're able to maintain that for longer and longer periods.
지수 메라레베 송어레 이些메타 충분 전배 매수 양양 동시 이些정보단 소소냐면 지도 야보 충충마 도在친보죠 말와 배장的是没的像没충충也有呢没충충提供他在相应的我们别强可能他在路呢不讲的呢对没提啊切都马桶是吧没素养上同时没学的不讲的要去没学切都真那全被没素养东西我这这情
准备没
素养当东西没素现在没要做样的所以这做手切当我刚才我天对天上提起那在那说在碰着我在碰过亲朋友那提是程度个面提才主要听女朋友说小天对然后说这娘们俩提起的一些穷的把压力啊娘们俩亲呢在要一些切当头那的呢说就是用我们吧这种怕没法说呢的呢一些的要我是确特别了这偏给的是我这种有的真的以前从我这种有的这当那都搞脱不进呢的日出这样呢看着那说他看着出着我的在差不多我的他就有了哇日出我他就搞就要经过跟南巴上去马来西亚可是那南巴上去是要他做我这样让说三次总对过学的是我三次对 top 上那的南巴上去是我在那个的是我的天的这是那三次你们去我们家都说现在你们去过学的天的这要不去 top 那的那个在的那偏给的起码偏给的我天的这说他在我们的是家中开起我那个可能听上那说在上个星期来看忙的南方出啥忙不就有了哇我这说这就想真说这就想的就想知道我的流了今年那三种这用呀忙不有的这我们的家中那说这个是他那做现在是那这的说过的他这说偏学的我这起码那上节特别偏给我们讲的我这对现在经验偏给这我们养的养成那在家头要别从去过学的意思
And so Milarepa says that one should sustain or nourish the fire of mindfulness, or like cause the fire, do what is necessary to cause the fire of mindfulness to grow. So at first, primordial awareness or wisdom it's like a tiny little flame. It's not very strong. And so it can't really withstand very much. So for instance, if you have a small flame and then you pile a bunch of kindling on that flame, like wood and so forth, and then it will just extinguish the flame. So you have to be very careful to first make the flame grow stronger by giving it, blowing on it, giving it some oxygen, and then it grows bigger. And then as it grows bigger, it's able to hold more. Meaning, so for instance, you can pile at that point, once it becomes very strong, you can pile all sorts of, wood, big logs on it. And those logs will be consumed by the fire. They themselves will become the nature of the fire. And so in the same way, even if that flame of wisdom starts out small, when it is nurtured with consistent, bringing in the mindful awareness again and again, then eventually it grows, it becomes stronger and stronger, and then it can hold even the strongest of afflictive emotions with awareness, and awareness isn't lost. It isn't overwhelmed by the affliction. And so the awareness itself can cause the emotion to evaporate or to become extinguished. And then the emotion itself becomes the nature of wisdom. And so Lord Jigten Sumgön has said, just going, enduring hardships and, dwelling in lonely, sort of rugged caves, this isn't really the meaning of the Buddha Dharma. The meaning or the purpose is to tame the mind. Without taming the mind, even if one endures austerities and hardships, it isn't really actually fulfilling the ultimate purpose. So the main thing is that the mind is that we tame the mind. And if we can tame the mind, then it will be a benefit to us in this life. It will be a benefit to us in future lives. And we can see this benefit directly these days. There's so much rushing, so much activity, so many different distractions and things that people are constantly distracted by and stressed out about. And there also this kind of rushed pace of lifestyle also brings about a lot of physical difficulties, various illnesses, and so forth. And so to know how to meditate can be extremely beneficial, both to the body physically and also to the mind, and finding some peace and calm in the mind and also in the body. And so it's important to practice in this way, by building our mindful awareness, making an effort, and coming back to the meditation again and again. And so now we're at the end of our morning session, so we can conclude here.
Yeah, this afternoon we start at 2 o'clock to 4:30.
Chuzu nipa neji dang chekabar.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. We can do a short dedication.
Short dedication, starting on page 18 of the prayer book. Lord Jigten Sumgön's dedication. Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind, root, and lineage gurus, divine assembly of Yidams, assemblies of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, heroes and heroines, yogini and her assembly of dakinis. All of you dwelling in the 10 directions, please heed me. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of attachment, hatred, ignorance, pride, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May thoughts of fame, reputation, gain, respect, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. Be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta. May I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. At the moment of death, may I not experience the suffering of being abruptly severed from this life. Not suffer a terrible death. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind itself and the crystal clarity of Dharmata. May I in any case gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.